I'm going to show you the 7 most common reasons why your dirt bike is spewing coolant out the radiator overflow. One of the biggest reasons is a bad head gasket. So maybe the gasket failed, maybe you reused it, or the bike just got too hot and it caused it to fail. So when the head gasket goes bad, this causes the engine pressure to go into the cooling system, and then this goes through the radiator and it causes an excessive amount of pressure, and that pushes coolant out the overflow hose. It could also be a warped cylinder head. Now, I had an old CR125 that it had coolant leaking out the overflow hose, and I replaced the head gasket once, and that seemed to fix it, but then I rode it again and it started peeing coolant out the overflow hose again. I'm like, what in the world? I just replaced this head gasket. What happened? So I took it off again. I brought it into my machine shop when I was working there, and I checked the tolerance of the cylinder head, and where the gasket failed, I checked, I indicated around it, and I found that there was a small difference. There was like a 0.002, so 2/1000ths difference in flatness. So it was just a small amount, so the head was warped. So what I did is I pulled the locating pin off of it, which was a pain in the butt, but then I just flat sanded it. I just sanded it until the whole surface was clean. I put it back on. I used a new head gasket, of course, and that solved the problem. Another cause could be a bad radiator cap. All the cap is a simple spring with a seal to keep the cooling system pressurized. So if the seal is bad, or the spring is worn out, it's not going to hold the pressure well, and then when the bike gets hot, this pressure is going to blow past the radiator cap seal, and it'll go out the overflow hose. So if you have another bike, just try another radiator cap and see if that fixes it. Another cause could be a bad water pump impeller. So the coolant and water, it flows through the radiator and the hoses because the impeller is spinning it while the engine is running. But if there's one of the teeth broken, or if all of them are broken, it's not going to be able to push that water through the system. So the water is just going to sit in the radiator. So if it's not flowing, it's not going to cool your bike down as well, and it'll get too hot, and this could push the coolant out the radiator overflow hose. Have you started up your bike and just let it sit there idling? This can cause your bike to overheat, and when it gets too hot, it'll push the coolant out the overflow hose. So if you have a 4-stroke liquid cooled bike, don't let it idle too long or it'll get too hot. In addition to that, are you riding too slow? The radiators, they won't cool themselves just from the water circulating through them. They have the fins on there because they need air flowing past them to help cool them down. So if you're riding too slow, not enough air is getting by the fins to cool them down. So if it gets hot because you're riding too slow, just ride a little bit faster. But if you can't safely ride faster because you don't have proper technique, well, then maybe you just need to shut your bike off for a few minutes and let it cool down. If you're riding in a lot of mud, then the mud roosted up on your radiators or the engine will block this airflow that will cool down your engine. So if there's a lot of mud on your bike, it's probably going to get hotter faster. That means you need to scrape it off or wash it off. And then a bonus tip for help preventing coolant spewing out your overflow hose is using proper clutch control, because when you slip the clutch more, it's going to cause more heat, and this heat will translate to a hotter oil, and this oil will circulate through the engine, especially in a 4-stroke, and this will cause it to stay hotter, get hotter, and coolant will leak out the overflow hose. And if you want to improve your clutch control, you need to check out this video here. This is Kelly Fager from Motocross Hideout. Learn more, ride more, so that you can stay safe and have fun for many years to come.